You know, I make these videos because I want to leave some kind of legacy behind after I'm dead. I hope that somehow I can affect somebody in some way that'll cause them to affect somebody else in some way, that hopefully it'll cause some kind of chain reaction. And I will have done something meaningful while I was on the earth, because, like, most lifetimes, if you think about it in terms of the universe, the size of the universe, how old the universe is, the human life is like a spark, just poof and it's gone. Now, the Hindus believe that if you die, you're reincarnated, which is more efficient and makes sense. Like, you're more of a chain than just a spark. It's more noticeable. So I'm kind of looking forward to finding out what happens after I die. I'm just really tired of this human, weak body. It's all frail and you have pains. Think about how crappy it is when compared to everything else. Like, I mean, humans are just really weak except for our brains. Every other mammal can either run faster than me, climb trees better than me, swim better than me, like birds. I mean, we can't even fly. The Earth is just a giant prison. It's like a big rock that we're anchored to, and we can't get away from it. I mean, we can temporarily get in a plane or a rocket ship, but we're just eventually going to fall back down.
And not only do you have gravity trapping you here forever, you're born and you realize, like when you grow up, that everything on Earth has already been named and everything's been owned by somebody. Like, you can't explore and find any new places because it's already been. If you look at Google Maps, for example, there's everything on there. It's like there's no undiscovered countries. I don't know if there's even any islands that haven't been discovered. Everything's already been done pretty much.
We're all born against our will. We're brought to this earth, we don't know why. Then we're told that we're going to die. Pretty much having birth is condemning someone to death because it's inevitable. Everybody goes through it. You try and keep it away from your kids so they don't find out about it, even though they're going to die too. Every little baby is going to die. It's something that everybody has to deal with, and it's the cause for most fears. It's one of our most primal fears, is the unknown of death. Religion is based on it. It's the whole point of religion, is trying to explain why we're here and where we're going to go. So I want to talk about, I want to say Christianity. Let's just say any Bible-based religion. Heaven and hell, and what exactly should we expect? We have these preconceived images of heaven and hell, mostly from literature, like John Milton's Paradise Lost talks about heaven, Dante's Inferno talks about hell. We think of hell as like a lake of fire and brimstone and Lucifer and the devil. And let's start with hell. Let's say there's a lake of fire. You have to think of this like not on this plane of existence. It's obviously not underneath the earth. We would seen something or heard something. It would have to be on some kind of alternate plane. And I'm not religious. Let me first say that I'm agnostic. I don't claim to know what's going to happen. I'm just trying to find out. And I am calling it hell and not HE double hockey sticks or heck, or people like to give it like a childish name because they're afraid it has some kind of curse, like if you say hell you'll go to hell, or I don't know why they would think that. I mean, it's not even mentioned in the Bible that often. It's not even used as the name hell in the Bible. It's like Gehennas or Hades, and that was supposedly, some of it is brought on from this place in Jerusalem outside the walls where they would burn criminals that were executed and they haven't buried their bodies yet. They would keep these fires going, and it started this notion that hell was like full of fire. But there is like hell fire sort of is talked about. When you think about something that could burn like hotter than fire, you would think not really fire, but more like something caustic, like acid or like sulfuric acid. Or if you've ever been around a big vat of some kind of chemicals like industrial acids or alkalides that has like a really strong smell, and you know if you touched it, it would just like eat your arm off. It shouldn't even be collected in such large amounts. It's almost like too dangerous to even fooling with. You know, like, I would hate to be trapped into a room with fumes like that. Just the fumes would like just erode your lungs. So it would make more sense for hell to have something like that. But the problem that you come into with hell, like, once you die, you shed your physical form. You don't have any like nerve endings. That's where pain comes from, is nerve endings. If you don't have any flesh, you have no pain. Like, even pain doesn't even exist. There is no such thing as pain. Pain is all in your brain. Like, if your nerves didn't send a signal to your brain, it would be, you wouldn't even know like you were cut or anything. It's like an alarm clock that you can't shut off. Like, I've been having a toothache lately, and like it's been going on for like 3 or 4 days, and like, I get it. the first time it started hurting, I'm like, okay, there's something wrong with my tooth or my jaw or something like that. I don't need it to tell me every fucking day. I get the idea by now. But the alarm clock won't shut off. It's annoying. There's this writer I like to read by. His name's Edward Lee, and he wrote some books about like what hell would be like. And he describes it sort of like a big city, kind of like New York City, only like 1,000 times bigger. And it's all like the sky is red, and people are sort of like, they have bodies until they get killed again in hell. And like if you lose your arm or something, it stays off. And like in the main building is the Mephisto building, and like that's where Satan lives at the top of this big skyscraper, and like all the inhabitants like have an economy and everything. Like they buy things with bones. If you can ever get like an actual bone from the real world into hell, you can use it as currency or something like that. And like they have these death squads that just go around like killing people in the streets, like just chaos and havoc and constant crazy sexual like rape, just the worst things you can imagine. So that's one kind of hell. And then there's like, I prefer the What Dreams May Come version. You know that movie with Robin Williams where like he goes to heaven but then he finds out his wife is in hell and he goes to hell to save her. And that's more like a big despairing type of mental suffering. Like it's like a prison that you can't get out of, but you could, but it's more like anguish, despair, sort of the worst things you can imagine. Like it's your own personal hell. And there's some types of TV versions of hell, like you have to do something really annoying forever and ever and ever, and like just something that you would hate to do. It's not really torturous, but the fact that you have to do it forever is torture. And I do like the What Dreams May Come version of heaven, which is kind of like everybody has their own personal heaven, like the perfect place for each person. They get to design their own heaven. I think about that a lot because there's a lot of contradictions, like how that would work. Say you get to go to heaven, but your wife doesn't get to go. She gets thrown in hell. If your idea of the perfect heaven includes your wife, how would it be heaven if she can't be there? You can maybe make a copy of your wife, but even then you would know it's not your real wife. You'd know she's suffering, and then it still wouldn't be perfect. In order for everybody to have their own perfect heaven, they would have to be alone pretty much, because if you wanted the same person in your heaven, your version of heaven that somebody else wanted, only one of you could get to actually have the real person. Unless there's some kind of copy thing going on. Like, and how's it work with sin? Like, okay, you spent your whole life avoiding sin so you can go to heaven, but don't you want to go to heaven so you can do the things that you couldn't do, like to sin? Like, could you have a lot of promiscuous sex, like adultery and fornication in heaven? That seems like you wouldn't want to once you get to heaven because it's so much better, but I don't know about that. What if your heaven, your version of heaven, would be to sin like mad? And I know a lot of people that play video games like me, like, I have this thirst for battle. And like, would you get to do any fighting in heaven? Like, I would want to have some kind of war going on. Not like the war in Iraq where you're just blowing stuff up. That's not really that interesting. But, you know, like a big castle siege or something with swords and bows and arrows and trebuchets and stuff. I'd want to switch it up though. I'd want sometimes to have like a laser tag situation going on. But anyway, that's what I'm saying, is like there's a lot of things that people love to do that if you went to heaven you wouldn't get to do them. For example, Angelina Jolie, considered the most beautiful woman in the world right now. How many people, when they died, if everybody had like their own personal heaven, how many people would want Angelina Jolie there? And they can't all have her there, not the real Angelina Jolie. So what would happen? It wouldn't exactly be heaven, would it? And then what if it's not even like everybody has their own personal situation? What if it's like everybody's in the same place? Then like, if a lot of these people that are like really right-wing fundamentalists are going to heaven, like the Mormon door-to-door people and the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I don't want to be where those people are at, you know? I do not enjoy their company, I guess is a good way to say it. I mean, some people are alright. It really depends on the person, but a lot of them are just really not fun. And the whole point is to have fun, right? Or you're just going to... It would suck if it's not about the fun. I mean, like, you work all this time on your life to get to go to heaven thinking it's going to be great. And then what if you worship God your whole life just to go to heaven and worship Him some more? What if that's what heaven is, that it makes you like worshiping God? It makes it like that's enjoyable for you, and like really you don't get to do anything you really wanted to do, just like a trick. Yeah, I don't think heaven's going to be, if there is a heaven, I don't think it's going to be what you expect. It's certainly not going to be like the big palace in the clouds type of Care Bears situation. Although I did kind of like the Defending Your Life Albert Brooks movie kind of version. That wasn't really heaven, that was just kind of like the stopping place along there. But what really bugs me about heaven is that when people, their family members pass away and they go to a funeral or later on they'll visit their grave or something, and people will say like, and these are really Judeo-Christian Bible religion people, you know, they'll say, oh, he's watching me from above, or he's always with me, or he's in heaven looking down down on us. And if you read the Bible, that's not true. Nobody's in heaven yet. Nobody's anywhere yet. There's this place called purgatory, you know, or like Sheol is how it's called in Hebrew. It's like this place where there's no knowledge or wisdom. It's like the grave. It's like, you know, nobody's gone anywhere yet. If you've read any of these like Tim LaHaye books, you know, I think they talk about it. So either way, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, because I'm really confused about the whole thing, and just kind of depressed with being so mortal. But, you know, I deal with that every day. I'm just a man.